Get ready to dive into the comic book realm where heroes rise and villains take the helm. We're here to dissect the stories and the art. On source material, we tear the panels apart.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Source Material Comics Podcast. We have returned. It's Volume 2 of Sons of Anarchy. We're getting into this. Mark Radlich, are you ready to discuss more Sons?
I am, Jesse. I have so much to say about this second trade that we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. We get a visit by one of our favorite sadistic marshals. Little backstory on Lee Toric here in this first issue. And that's kind of how I'm going to break this down. I'm going to do our first story, which is just a one-off about Lee Toric and some misadventure he gets into prior to this.
Remember how I said the first 6 issues, it was weird they started with Tig's daughter being burnt and just doing a branch off of that for a story? Also an odd choice that in issue number 7, we do a Lee Toric side story.
I was wondering...
We're 7 issues into this series, and Jax and
Jax has done nothing. Right, yeah. Jax has done nothing other than I've got to go check on the boys, or I got to go check on Tara, and you see him like a couple times, and that's it. We don't see him at all in this issue.
Jax fucking not yet appearing in this comic.
A very brief cameo.
What are you doing here, Jackson Teller? A very brief cameo. Room. I have to go check on the boys.
What's going on over at Diosa? Lee Toric in this first issue that we're going to be talking about, issue number 7. I'll run down the synopsis for that. We'll break just for a couple seconds, talk about what happens, and then we'll do the last 3 issues all together, and we'll talk about that one. So unless you've got something to say, I'll hop right into it.
Something we talked about in the first podcast is that this particular story is the bridge between issues 3 and 4. This series, I don't remember when the Lee Toric thing happened because it's separate from everything. It's well before we even meet Lee Toric. The rest of this, as you can see in the art on the graphic on the screen, takes place while they're in prison between seasons 3 and 4.
Yeah, the Toric stuff happens a couple years prior to when Toric shows up on the series.
Yes, and tucks his penis and says, "Do you want to fuck me? I'd fuck me."
Did that? I don't remember that happening. But
I feel like that's something he would do, though.
Okay. That might be something he may do.
He messes with prostitutes, but he's always tucking. It's weird.
Oh, man. All I could top 3 Lee Toric moments is him shooting the hooker and then saying, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry."
Like he spilled tomato soup on her dress.
Then he puts the pillow over her head. Boom. I'm sorry.
Yeah. 1,000 pardon. That's how I'm gonna kill people. I'm gonna put a pillow and shoot him with the gun and go 1,000 pardon. Bang. I beg your pardon. Bang. I'm so klutzy. Bang.
All right. So yeah, we're gonna just talk about issue 7 here real quick. Issue 7, written by Ed Brisson, art by Jesus Hervas, colors by Stephen Downer, letters by Ed Dukeshire. Here we go. Issue number 7, we flash back 2 years to an event that sets the stage for Marshal Lee Toric's dark path. Toric meets with Dennis, a retired lawman and an old friend who is tormented by the brutal death of his son, Jordan. Jordan, a struggling addict, was beaten and left to die in a dumpster. Dennis, consumed by grief, begs Toric to track down the people responsible. Fueled by his own sense of justice, Toric agrees to take matters into his own hands. Toric's investigation leads him to Darcy, a friend of Jordan's who points a finger at a violent motorcycle gang called the Slaughter. Darcy identifies the specific members responsible, and Toric decides to approach the gang under the guise of a gun runner looking to make a sale. During his pitch to the gang members, Terry and Carson, the conversation turns chilling when Terry casually mentions killing a Mayan recently. The deal seems to be going well, but when Toric returns to Darcy's place, he finds it mysteriously abandoned. The next day, things take a dark turn when Toric meets the gang again to seal the deal. Carson has Darcy held hostage. Terry pulls a gun on Toric, revealing that Darcy had exposed Toric's real intentions. Worse still, Toric learns that Darcy was the one who set up Jordan's fatal meeting in the first place. Without hesitation, Carson kills Darcy, and the gang begins to beat Toric, seemingly ready to end his life. But Toric had already set his own trap. A roar of motorcycles fills the air as the Mayans, enraged over the murder of one of their own, arrive on the scene. Toric had tipped them off, knowing they'd be eager for vengeance. A chaotic fight breaks out, quickly overwhelming the Slaughter. Growing impatient, Toric takes matters into his own hands, shooting Carson dead and ending the brawl. 2 days later, Toric returns to Dennis, letting him know that justice has been served. But Dennis is far from satisfied. He wanted to avenge his son himself. Toric explains that he handled things to protect Dennis from any blowback, ensuring that there would be no consequences. In an eerie moment of foreshadowing, Toric declares that he would do anything to avenge the death of a family member, hinting at the obsessive vengeance that would eventually drive him to extremes in the television series. So there we go, Mark Radulich. That was issue number 7, our little spotlight on Lee Toric. What are you thinking?
Not the first time we're going to see Slaughter. Not the last time we're going to see Slaughter. Lee Toric is a fun character. This one, it was a one-shot deal. If you separate it from the greater narrative of the show, it's a fun, pulpy crime story about this investigator who Lee Toric could have had his own show.
Oh, man.
Like he's definitely that like Vic Mackey Shield semi-justified kind of thing of, I have to work beyond the confines of the law in order to find true justice.
Right.
And Lee Toric's not Superman. He's not Rambo. He's just a guy. And when he's in the situation where he's going to be outnumbered 10-1, he uses his wits to even the odds and get the job done. We root against Lee Toric because he's in opposition to the Sons, and that's who our protagonists are, so that's who we're cheering. But independent of that, Lee Toric could have gotten his own show, like a Better Call Saul situation. If they ever do a prequel series, I mean, they can't. Donald Logue is like 100 now. But if they would ever do like a prequel series and it's like the Lee Toric show, I would totally watch.
Okay.
I would watch that over Mayan.
Okay. So we kind of
talk
almost
about
have
that. Like, hey, we want to continue with Sons of Anarchy. You've killed everybody. This Shakespearean tragedy has ended. You've murdered the entire cast. Okay, but we want to continue Sons of Anarchy anyway. Is there any way that we can keep, like, maybe do a prequel series? What's the name of the Mexican rival gang?
The Mayans?
Yeah, do that. Hispanics watch TV. Keep going.
Well, when you get him in the television series, you don't have much sympathy for this guy. This is very similar to a discussion we were having on the previous episode about Tig and us actually feeling some specific way for the character. By the end, you may have felt sorry for Tig, and hopefully his character had some absolution. Either way, it was a story told about Tig. Here we have Toric, who we know is pretty fucked up in the television series.
Yeah.
And
above the law.
Right. And it's a very similar vibe where you're like, now you feel like you want this guy to succeed. I didn't want this guy to succeed in the series. Now with this story, I want him to succeed. I want him to find this other motorcycle gang and make him pay.
When he's not going after Tara, who is kind of just caught up in all of this, I don't want to say she's completely innocent, but Tara definitely didn't deserve a lot of what happened to her. She certainly didn't deserve the full 100% ire of Donald Logue's character. But independent of all of that, where you could just focus on him, I'd absolutely cheer him. He's great.
Yeah, but he's not like pure at heart here in this story either. Even though it's a couple years before what's going on, this guy is still going back to the drug house where Darcy was at, and he's finding a stash, and he's sitting there shooting up.
Hey, who are we to judge? Life is hard.
We just haven't hit that moment where his sister got killed and what absolutely turns him onto the dark side. My notes here were it was a neat way to bring in Toric. He's still kind of his messed up self, but you get this sense of justified brutality when he calls in the Mayans, and he gets the job done. So that's pretty cool. This is our introduction to the Slaughter, an Arizona-based motorcycle club that's not in the television series, solely made up for the comics. So there you go. All right, moving on. Let's get into issues 8 through 10. Written by Ed Brisson, art by Damian Cusero, colors by Michael Spicer, letters by Ed Dukeshire. In issue 8, the Sons are now behind bars in Stockton State Prison. Like you said, this bridges between 3 and 4 seasons of the television series. They're facing a 14-month sentence as long as they keep out of trouble. Clay Morrow is immediately warned by the warden that both he and the club will be under close scrutiny. Meanwhile, on the outside, Gemma meets with Tara, who begs Gemma to push Jax to focus on his family and avoid the violence that seems to follow SAMCRO.
Seemed really ridiculous and unbelievable. Like, he's in prison, you dumb bitch. Right. What the fuck's he gonna do?
Inside prison, tensions rise quickly when Jax is attacked by one of Victor Putlova's men. Victor Putlova. Clay steps in to save Jax, though the threat remains. Outside, Gemma comes home to a chilling surprise. Victor Putlova himself is waiting for her. Putlova informs Gemma that SAMCRO owes him $2 million after an earlier deal involving counterfeit money went sour. He demands steep interest, 10% a month, and threatens worse consequences if they don't pay. He leaves after making a veiled threat about Abel, Jax and Tara's son. Fearing for her family, Gemma calls Chibs and rushes to Tara's house to check on Abel. Though Tara is calm, Gemma is rattled and insists that Tara's home be guarded 24/7. Back in prison, Clay and Bobby scramble to figure out how to pay Putlova, but Jax's troubles deepen. While trying to make a phone call, Jax is stabbed by Ivo Alexei, another of Putlova's thugs, leaving him gravely wounded. In issue number 9, Jax is on the brink of death as doctors going to the doctor. Deaths as
Jesse,
doctors.
this is why no one wants you to do this with AI, because they want to hear you say doctors.
I edited it all out. You never hear it in the first place.
Hey, listen, like my girlfriend said, just leave it in.
My girlfriend said, doctors work to save him in the prison infirmary. On the outside, Gemma corners Opie, trying to understand why Putlova is coming after them, but her interrogation is interrupted by a call from Clay. He delivers the devastating news. Jax has been stabbed, but is expected to survive. Gemma breaks the news to Tara, who is heartbroken, but determined to protect her family. Back in prison, Clay starts a brawl during lunch to make a statement, but is swiftly thrown into solitary confinement for 2 weeks. Once Jax recovers, Clay tells the rest of the gang they need to keep a low profile as he works on calming things down. He assures them that he has secured protection from a Mexican faction inside. Tara confronts Gemma, fearing for the safety of her family. Gemma insists everything is under control, but as soon as she leaves, Russians are spotted trailing her. A high-speed car chase and gunfight ensue, with Chibs and Opie joining the pursuit. Eventually, they run the Russian car off the road, capturing one of Putlova's men. Opie decides to make a deal. He offers to trade the captive Russian for an arrangement that could clear SAMCRO's debt to Putlova. In issue 10, Jax meets with Tara during visiting hours, reassuring her to stay calm despite everything that's happening. On the outside, Opie has captured a Russian and is holding him, but Gemma is furious. She wants revenge for threats to her family. Opie keeps Gemma at bay, insisting they need to play the situation smartly. In prison, Clay finalizes a deal with the Mexicans to guarantee protection for SAMCRO, further securing their safety on the inside. Opie arranges a meeting with Putlova, offering the captured Russian in exchange for bringing Putlova and the Russians into SAMCRO's lucrative gun-running operation. The deal offers Putlova a hefty 80% cut, guaranteeing the club's safety as well as that of their families. A year later, at Opie's wedding, season 4, episode 1, titled Out, Gemma seethes Putlova has been invited. It's a bitter reminder of the uneasy alliances SAMCRO has been forced to make. Meanwhile, in prison, the Mexicans take out 3 Russian prisoners, leaving Ivo Alexei, the man who stabbed Jax, to be beaten and brought to infirmary. There, Otto, a SAMCRO member, kills Alexei in cold blood, settling the score with a scalpel to the ear. Finally, the saga of Victor Putlova comes to a violent end. Under the guise of a gun deal, Putlova is lured into the woods where Clay and Tig ambush and kill his bodyguards. Jax, seeking personal revenge for his stabbing, delivers the final blow by stabbing Putlova multiple times in the stomach, ending the Russian crime lord's reign. SAMCRO has settled its debt, but the bloody path they've walked leaves a trail of consequences that will inevitably follow them. That's issues 8 through 10. We get ourselves a nice Opie story here. Opie's got to get the club out of the debt that they're in and try and resolve things. Everyone's happy. That's about all I got for these 3 issues. I don't really have much else to add. It's just a nice little side story to maybe kind of show like how Opie was more of an essential part of trying to resolve this whole $2 million thing. And maybe there was some question later as to why the Russians weren't trying to kill the gang. I remember in the series, I wondered, like, they stabbed Jax, and I thought, okay, they tried to kill him. He didn't die, so they're just going to leave. They're just going to say, okay, well, we tried to kill you. $2 million.
Oh, well.
Okay. Oh, well, we'll write that off. We tried to kill you. I guess that's worth $2 million, and we'll call it a day.
We only get one shot at this.
This seems like an explanation as to why the Russians aren't trying to kill them.
They filmed this. I got to be honest with you. I didn't even remember who Victor Putlova was. I didn't remember the storyline. I could have been convinced this was wholly invented for the comic. As far as the actual story in the comic as a supplemental episodes of a television show works just fine, like we talked about in the first podcast. That's exactly what this was. However, not every episode of every television show is spectacular. Sometimes you watch a 10, 13, 22 episode show, even if it's like chapters in a book, not every episode has a lot of action in it. Like I remember Breaking Bad, for example. I know everyone loves, I think it's the Fly episode.
It's a great episode.
People like it. It's stylized very well, but did a lot happen in that episode? No.
Not a thing.
Yeah. Like certain episodes, there's like a dream sequence. Like, I know you watched The Flash on CW.
Yes.
There's an episode where Supergirl crosses over, and it's also a musical. So this felt like one of those episodes where it's like, okay, well, we're dealing with this. It almost feels like they took an unaired episode and turned it into a comic.
Yeah,
Here's the
I can see
script
that
from the show that slowed. We were only slated for 10 episodes, and so we had extra scripts lying around that we never filmed. They were like, let's send them over to Boom Studios, turn these extra episodes into comic books, you nerd, if you insist.
There's really not much else to talk about here. It's an Opie side story. That's about it. Well, we're at the end of the episode then. That's the end of the episode. We're done. All right, we're out of here. That's Mark. I'm Jesse. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.
Well, not the last time we're going to see Slaughter.
Might see Def Leppard, and hell, maybe even Firehouse at this point.
He was a young boy.
He had a heart of
Heart
stone.
of stone.
One shot deal.
Adam Cole, baby.
This is our introduction to the Slaughter. That's
Bring
definitely...
your daughter to the slaughter. Bring your daughter.
He demands steep interest, 10% a month.
It could be worse. It could be Capital One.
No.
You should see the interest on my credit card. Yeah, I'm going to make meth in order to pay down this credit card. Just to stay ahead of the interest.
Ooh,
I would rather owe the mob.
You currently do. It's just legally.
Hired to give you the Ronnie treatment and tease you, by the way. But
Okay.
it's usually like, I didn't see the musical episode. I'm like, what's the matter? You don't like queers? There it is. I'm so tired. You know, I would have been able to find it, though?
Tell me.
If you'd done a syndicated source material on it. Where's my Flintstone show?
Oh, here we go.
You've never seen A Clockwork Orange. Watch it with the family. Look up at all 10 feet of Caleb and ask him what he thinks. Mongo, this is inappropriate.
Did I tell you
No,
that he can't remember that he's called Mongo, so he calls himself Mango? He calls himself Mango. Mango don't like. I'm like, no, Caleb, it's Mongo.
No, Mongo don't like long O.
Oh,
Mongo
shit.
only short vowel.
I'm Mango.
Maybe you need to kick open the door, go in, Colton today, poop today, poop today. That'll make him feel better. I can't get the image of you kicking open while your poor daughter's taking a shit. And you doing jazz hands. Poop today, poop today, poop today. And now the poop today dancers. Poop today, poop today.
I cannot wait to go to the dorm next weekend and bust in. Embarrass her right in front of her roommate.
Just kick open the door. Curiosity, poop today, poop today.
Oh,
I
shit.
have no idea where this homeless man came from. Your wife will totally no-sell it, too. I don't know who he is.
So why don't you go ahead and get into plugs?
Poop today, poop today.
No plugs today. It's just poop today. Everybody, make sure you poop today.
Anyway, I poop today at Mark Radledge on TikTok.
Show us where you poop from.
Today on W2MNetwork.com. Let's poop today on out of here.